Hi, I read a scripture this morning that gave me an insight and that I want to share with you. And it's about Sarah and her slave servant Hagar, who had born to Abraham Ishmael. So when Sarah weaned Isaac, she saw Ishmael making a mockery of her and had requested from Abraham to send Hagar and her child Ishmael away. That displeased Abraham, but he did not want to go into fight with Sarah. And then the Lord spoke to Abraham in verse 12 and says, "Do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for Isaac is your seed. For in Isaac your seed shall be called, yet I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman because he is your seed." So when I read this, something very great here stood out for me, especially for fathers, and that's the people that I want to talk to at this moment. You will get something. And one of the things that you're going to see here is that the Lord said, "I will also make a nation of the son." And listen at this moment, in the following verse, Abraham actually sent Hagar and her son Ishmael away. But the Lord said, "I will make." And this is a 14-year-old boy that Abraham was sending away. You know the lesson that I have? It is not the fathers that make the children. There is no amount of physical inheritance that you leave for the children that will give them a stake in life. It is the Lord that makes, especially for you who is a Christian. You have to understand, when Isaac wanted to bless his children, when he wanted to bless Esau, he said, "Bring me a venison." He didn't give Esau a right to any of his physical inheritance. He pronounced blessings on him. When Jacob wanted to bless the 12 tribes of Israel, he called them and said, "Come, let me tell you what shall be your end." And that was the day that he divided the inheritance of his life to them through the words of his mouth. And that's why every parent, especially fathers, need to learn to speak right and speak good into their children. That is the inheritance. And look at another thing here that the Lord said to Abraham. He said, "Yet I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman because he is your seed." Because he is your seed. The circumstance does not matter, in as much as he is not the promised son, but he is your seed. And what lesson did I pick from here? The value of a fatherly relationship with God. Do you understand? You preserve the stake of your children by the value of your relationship with God. The day David obtained that covenant from the Lord and heard the Lord clearly and was convinced that the Lord has spoken to him that the seeds of kingship will never depart from you, from generation to generation, he made a feast and rejoiced and began to sing, "Who am I that you are so mindful of me?" He blessed his children. He called on them. He let them know the things that the Lord have said to him. And he was assured that his generation was going to retain the kingship of Israel because the Lord has spoken. So he said, "Even if your children sin against me, I am going to chastise them, but I will still preserve the throne for them." Isn't that great? He preserved that inheritance by his relationship with the Lord. And of course, no matter the amount of money that you leave for your children, they are always going to waste it. They can by simple mismanagement. But the ways of a father, the instructions that you give your children and your relationship with God actually lingers. Every inheritance, lasting inheritance that parents leave for their children is always preserved by the place of prayer and by their relationship with God. And that is why it becomes very important for every father, for every parent, father, mother. There are so many lessons in this scripture, both for the children, both for the mothers. But for this very verse, you need to understand that for the fathers, you need to speak right. And you need to have a relationship with God. That is what God remembers upon your children when you are gone. He said, "I will also make a nation of him because he is your seed." And that's the reason why sometimes you hear about generational blessings. The people that paid the sacrifice are gone, and their children are walking into their inheritance because there was a covenant that the father preserved while he was alive based on his relationship with God. Generations will come and nobody will have a trace of your wealth because it has passed. It has either been wandered, be destroyed, or being preserved by your offspring. But what will always preserve a generation upon generation to remain great is usually the sacrifice and the covenant that the fathers were able to put in place by their relationship with God. You need to understand that that is very crucial. The inheritance of a righteous man is very spiritual. It's not in the abundance of cars or the abundance of bank accounts. So if you're a father today, labor to leave something for your children, because that will count and is very spiritual. It's not in your bank account. It's in your relationship with God. What is God telling you about your tomorrow and your lineage? Preserve that and take it to bank. Love you.